Hey everyone, Fierce Technology here. What I have here is the Blackberry Torch 9860 and the Blackberry Curve 9380. So a lot of numbers now with these new devices, but these are the two brand new devices from RIM for touchscreen models. So we're going to go over some of the physical aspects of each of the phones first. So you can noticeably right off the bat see that the Torch is quite a bit bigger. So it's longer. I'll put them on top of each other, and the Torch is slightly wider, and we'll go to the side right here so you can see the Torch is definitely longer as well. Both have the USB jacks on the side there, and then we'll go to this side and they both have the volume jacks on the side. 3.5mm headphone jack on the Torch there, and it's on the top on the Curve. We'll go to the back, and we've got the cameras right there. So they're both 5-megapixel camera. The Torch does use 720p HD video, whereas the Curve is just the standard VGA video. One thing you'll notice on the front of each phone, I'll go back to the right side here, is on the bottom of the Curve it uses buttons. On the bottom of the, on the bottom of the Torch it uses buttons. On the bottom of the Curve it's got integrated buttons, so they're a little bit harder to press. Personally I prefer the actual buttons. The actual buttons are a little bit easier to press, but that's perfectly fine. It's a little bit getting used to. The processors inside the Torch uses a 1.2 gigahertz processor. This is the newest processor from RIM, and the Curve uses a 800 megahertz processor, so it's noticeably a little bit slower, not as snappy as the Torch is, but that's perfectly fine. Both these devices are kind of aimed towards different aspects. The Torch is more of like the upper end device, whereas the Curve is more of your like starter Blackberry. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the other aspects of each device. We have 512 megabytes of built-in storage and 512 megabytes of RAM, and on the Torch we've got 2.5 gigabytes of internal storage as well as 768 megabytes of RAM, and they both use memory card slots, so it's expandable memory. So if the memory is not enough for you, then it's definitely just pick up a memory card, throw it in there, and you're perfectly fine. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about these devices. They're very similar devices. They both optimize BBM and all that, of course, as well, but they also do run on the Blackberry OS 7, so it's kind of, you have to decide which one you want to spend the money on. I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail. I'm just sort of giving you the physical aspects of the differences on them. But if you want your sort of powerhouse device, you're going to go obviously with the Torch. If you want the sort of base model touchscreen Blackberry, if a starter Blackberry is what I would say it would be called, I would go with the Torch or with the Curve. So you kind of have to decide which way you want to go on to. I'll bring up the keyboard just to give you guys a little bit of a demonstration on the keyboards on them as well. They both use the touchscreen type keyboards. So there we go, I've got whatever, just leave it up like that. So you can see their spacing on the Curve is slightly more. So personally I'm going to have to say I do find that the screen seems a little bit wider, although it's not on the Curve, but it seems like the spacing is a little bit easier for the keyboard. You can flip them around as well, and they will go to the larger type keyboard on the side, which does make it easier to type definitely as well. We'll go into battery life now. Battery life claims from the manufacturer, we get about 5.5 hours of talk time on the Blackberry Curve, and they say up to 30 hours of music playback. These are obviously recommended. They're not the true actual value that you're actually going to get, because it does vary. The Torch uses about 4.5 hours of talk time, and it gets about 44 hours of music playback. Standby time for each of them, we've got 360 hours of standby time on the Curve, and we've got 330 hours of standby time on the Torch. They both use the JM1 battery, so I'll show you the battery just on the back of the Torch. They both use the same JM1 battery, which kind of seems to be about the standard for Blackberry batteries now, as the Bold's 9900 uses the JM1 as well. So there you have it. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the greatest of detail because these two devices do use the exact same operating system. The main differences is just the processors on them, the camera's slightly different, a few other little differences on them, but there's definitely a huge price difference though. You'll notice the Torch usually will retail around $600, whereas the Curve will retail for you around $350. So it's almost double the price for the Torch compared to the Curve, but obviously, like I said, we got the powerhouse Torch and we've got the base model Curve here. So anyways, that's about it. I'm just not going to go any more into it, but I'd love to hear your guys' questions and comments, so please leave them down below. Let me know what you guys think of each of these devices, and we'll go from there. I'll do my best to answer any questions that I can, and if you haven't already subscribe to me. Don't forget about my giveaways. Check out my channel page, and there's a couple of giveaways that I'm going to be having this month and next month, so definitely check it out, and I will see you guys on my next review. Thanks a lot, guys.